Hi, Levi Allen here. I wanted to talk a little bit today about syndications and different ways to partner to get into a syndication. All a syndication is the pooling together of money, resources, time, knowledge to do something bigger than what you otherwise could on your own. So for an example, rather than going out and buying a rental house or a duplex on your own where you have to get recourse debt, it's very unlikely you can do a cost segregation study to accelerate depreciation losses, and you might have to manage it yourself or pay a manager 10% management fee. There's like no economies of scale, it's higher risk. Why not just put that same money you would have put into a small deal into a larger deal where it's non-recourse debt, professional property management, economies of scale. You got so much lower risk, higher returns, higher tax benefits. So I kind of wanted to talk today about some of the pros and cons and what makes sense for you, and different ways that you get compensated in a syndication, because it's really common. So there's a lot of different structures in a syndication, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But typically the general partnership is the partners in the deal that are going to be spending some of their time taking more risk and then using their expertise for certain things. So, and the limited partners are usually the passive investors that just put up capital, where they're getting a solid return, tax benefits, ownership, but they don't do any of the work. They take all less risk and they don't have to have any expertise. So there's pros and cons to both, and there's reasons to do both. I'm also a passive investor in other syndications as well as a general partner in syndications. So we'll start with general partnership. So there's a lot of moving parts that go into an acquisition, as far as time spent. You have to, when you're looking for a deal, you have to build relationships in a market that you're interested in acquiring assets. And that takes time, and it takes studying to be able to find a deal and be able to analyze a deal, be able to negotiate the deal. And then once you're that far into the process, you're to the stage where you need to raise the equity, because usually you have 25 to 35% equity, and then you've got 65 to 75% debt on an acquisition. To get the type of returns that my company is usually looking for, which is 15 to 20% minimum annualized returns. And then as far as risk goes, there's certain deposits and fees that go into the acquisition on the beginning of an investment. So the earnest money deposit, it's usually like 1% of the purchase price. So on a $10 million acquisition, $100,000 earnest money deposit. And if you're buying in a competitive market that's a really good market, like a Salt Lake City, Utah, for example, one that we're looking in, you often have to put up non-refundable earnest money day one. If it's like an off-market deal where you're buying at below market, the broker's only going to bring it to one or two guys, and they want to know that you're going to close the deal. So you often have to put non-refundable earnest money day one. So if you walk away, you're losing that money. So from what I've come to find out, a lot of people that are interested in investing in real estate, they don't want to be on the general partnership side, because they don't want to have to take that risk of losing $100,000 for putting up the deposit or signing on the loan. So the limited partners don't sign on the loan. There's only a few different partners that are key principals that'll be signing on the loan for the property. And then lender deposits, it's going to be like 10 to 30,000 you put as a deposit down. Attorney fees and deposits, you're looking at like 15 to 20 grand for attorney fees for both the contract and setting up the private placement memorandum, the subscription agreement, all of the documents for the SEC. And then as far as experience, I've already covered that under time. You have to have experience to be able to do these things. But when I'm first talking with someone that's showing interest in investing into a syndication, I just like to be upfront with them and explain to them the structure and different ways that you can participate in profit sharing. How you would make a return as a limited partner, and then ways that you can even get more profit sharing by, usually if they have no experience in real estate, it's very unlikely they're going to be able to do any of these things. But they could put up the earnest money deposit or the lender deposit or upfront attorney fees, or sign as a guarantor on the loan to meet net worth and liquidity requirements. But most people that I talk to, they just want the best return, the least amount of risk, and the most tax benefits. So it makes the most sense for them just to be a limited partner on the deal, where they don't have to sign on the loan, they don't have to put up any of the deposits or fees up front, and they just wait till we're done with all of our due diligence and we're ready to close on the acquisition, and then they can just wire a check for the amount they want to invest. And then as far as structuring goes, I don't want to dive into that too much because it can get pretty complicated, but it's pretty common to have a preferred return to the limited partner investors, where the cash flow of a property, say if we have a 6% preferred return, the first 6% of that cash flow goes to the limited partner before there's a split where the general partners will receive some of that. And that's just a way to incentivize the general partners that are operating the deal to make sure it's a profitable investment, because they don't get paid until they exceed the preferred return to the limited partners. Like 2 deals we've done recently, one we did an 8% preferred return with a 75-25 LPGP split. One we did a 7% preferred return with an 80-20 LPGP split. But too many people, I feel like, get hung up on the profit splits, and they kind of disregard the deal or the operator, because there's deals that can make 0 returns. I've had people say, oh, I just want to find a deal where I get the same ownership as the general partner, and it's like, that's not realistic, and if it is, you shouldn't be investing with them. Like I just did a deal where I'm making 120% return in 2 years. That's a 60% annualized return. I literally could have had an investor put up all the capital, and we do a straight 50-50 split. Split the cash flow 50-50, the gains 50-50, and he still would have made a 60% return. So that's a 30% annualized return. Literally doing none of the work, taking very low risk, being completely passive, and a 30% annualized return, that's pretty solid. So yeah, just make sure not to emphasize too much on the profit splits. Make sure you're investing with a solid operator with a proven track record, and make sure that they're in a good market where there's good fundamentals in that market. But that's kind of a few different things about syndication, how it's structured, why it's structured the way it is. So if you're interested in investing in a syndication, or you're just trying to kind of figure out what makes sense for you in your situation, whether you could get some ownership on the general partnership side by doing one of these things, or if you're just interested in investing passively to get a solid return and take lower risk, reach out to me and let me know, and I can kind of help you navigate the syndication space. But that's it. So have a great day.